7:37 in Trinidad and Tobago, and also in Guyana, where there's increased concern about the position of Venezuela, given the statement by Nicolas Maduro some 11 days ago, 2 Thursdays ago, reiterating its claim to the Essequibo region of Guyana, which was decreed in that ruling in 1899, a long time ago, but it's something that's consistently challenged by Venezuela, and they've restated that claim. However, in a statement on the 12th of this month, Caricom said it was deeply concerned with this situation and supports the judicial process underway at the International Court of Justice. Well, we're joined now by Anil Nandlall, who is the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs in Guyana. Very good morning to you, sir. Thanks for joining us once again.
Good morning, Fazeer, and it's always a pleasure to be on your program. And I want to take this opportunity to say good morning to all your listeners and viewers across Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and further afield.
And this latest statement from Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, what does that represent in real terms for the government of Guyana? Is there now an existential threat on the Essequibo region?
Well, the government of Guyana is viewing the statement most seriously. We consider it an abrogation of international law. We consider it a violation of all international practices. That piece of land has been under the territorial control and sovereignty of Guyana for the past, 200 years. It has never left Guyana's physical control and possession. It has always been subject to the laws of Great Britain when we were a colony, and then the laws of British Guyana and then Guyana. It has always been considered as our territory internationally under all conventions. All the maps of the world show Essequibo belongs to Guyana. It forms part of our territory, and every time there is economic activity in that area of Guyana in relation to petroleum exploration and petroleum production, we see this ugly allegation, baseless as it is, being raised by Venezuela. In the 60s, there was a Canadian company that was doing onshore drilling in Essequibo. Venezuela resuscitated that ridiculous contention. Then in the 70s, there was an American company that was doing onshore drilling again. Venezuela raised this allegation. Then one of the operators now in the current industry, in 2017, I believe, was doing some navigational work in the Essequibo area, and they sent a gunboat and they evinced acts of aggression and detained the boat, etc. Hence, the process has become now a live one. Of course, you know about the antecedents, the way that we have approached it. We have always taken a path of diplomacy in accordance with international rules and practice, and in accordance with international law. We eventually went all the way to the United Nations, and from there a recommendation was made for it to be sent to the International Court of Justice, and that is where it is, and we have submitted our case. Venezuela is refusing to submit to the jurisdiction of the court, causing the court to pause the hearing of the merit of the case and had to confront the jurisdictional issue. The court did so, and in a very comprehensive and compendious ruling delivered in December, it ruled that Venezuela had submitted to the jurisdiction of the court by its actions, if not by its words. And a date has been fixed for case management of the matter to give directions and the forward movement of the matter. In the meanwhile, after Mr. President Maduro would have done what he did, we sought and solicited solidarity and support from the region, and we got that in the form of a statement from Caricom. The United States government has issued a statement, and I have no doubt that in due course, other international organizations like the Commonwealth, the OAS, who have all been briefed, the UK government, the Canadian government, will also issue similar statements. But to answer your question again, We consider this a grave act of aggression against our territory, and we are taking it as seriously as we possibly can.
Were you satisfied with the response of Caricom, the wording of the communique? Would you have liked stronger language, a more strident position to be restated?
Well, I think that the statement was appropriately worded, proportionate to what the threat is at this point in time. In international law and when one is exploring diplomatic channels, one have to be careful that one do not overextend oneself and act in a manner disproportionate to the situation at hand. So at this point in time, I believe that the statement met the current situation, and I have no doubt that should the situation persist and Maduro persist in his illegal utterances and publications, that more appropriately worded statements to meet the threshold to which he has increased will emanate from the various bodies whose solidarity we are soliciting.
Mr. Nandlall, are you worried though that words on paper are fine and clearly state a government's position, a region's position, as in the case of CARICOM and other international agencies, but to use the phrase boots on the ground are a different story altogether? Is that something that the Guyana government has the resources to monitor if there is any potential for an incursion, if that would happen, on the sovereign territory of Guyana in Essequibo?
Well, you're asking me a twofold question. One, whether we can detect an incursion, and two, what steps can we take to deflect an incursion. I think that we have the resources requisite to detect any incursion. Our army is fully briefed. The president, leading from the front as the commander-in-chief, is himself viewing this matter very closely and is receiving reports. Army personnel are permanently and strategically placed in the appropriate locations. So the answer to question one is yes. The answer to question two is a completely different matter, but that is why we are seeking international solidarity and international support. One cannot feel safe. Venezuela has evinced a clear and settled train of actions that they are not prepared to abide by principles of democracy. They're not prepared to respect the rule of law. They're not prepared to abide by the international environment and international law. So because you're dealing with a recalcitrant party of that caliber, one must at all times be worried, because you have to expect the worst.
And Attorney General Nandlall, has this all been precipitated by offshore drilling, by further exploration in the Essequibo region within the borders of Guyana?
I believe that was the initial trigger, and I believe that continues to be the underlying reason that is driving this action on the part of Venezuela. I gave you the antecedents before, and here again, the oil blocks, a large number of them are located in that disputed area. And it all started when there was a boat going out there to map out navigationally where these blocks are. That's how it started sometime in 2014, I believe. 2012, I was Attorney General then under President Ramata administration. And that's when it started. And we went and we employed a good office engagement via the auspices of the United Nations. That did not bear the fruits that we had anticipated. We took it at a higher level to the United Nations itself, and they recommended that the matter be adjudicated upon by the International Court of Justice. Hence, we are where we are.
And are you concerned now where we have a situation where, of course, Trinidad and Tobago does business with Venezuela? It may not be to the level that had previously operated, and there was all issues about the Dragon gas field and so on, and an arrangement that was supposed to have been formalized. COVID-19 and other issues have impacted on that. Are you concerned in any way that notwithstanding the Caricom statement, that there will be some issues as far as discomfort in dealing forcefully with Venezuela and this position because of a business oil gas relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela?
Well, it will put Caricom to a test because Caricom will have to make a choice whether it will stand with one of its own in a matter of fundamental national importance, territorial sovereignty, or whether it will bend and bow to commercial interests. One would expect that in such a situation, an organization circumstanced like Caricom would take the former position as opposed to the latter. And I prefer to reside my optimism and my confidence in Caricom doing that rather than succumb to some commercial interest of some type to the benefit of one or two members in the organization as opposed to the whole of the community as one family and as one unit as it is supposed to be.
And well, we've had situations before in the not too distant past where we've had what clearly would be a fracturing of that desired unity. We all know about the Mar-a-Lago meetings last year where a number of Caribbean nations were not invited because of their position in relation to the Trump administration. Are you confident that Caricom will stand firm on this issue?
Fazeer, I have to be an optimist and I have to remain confident, and the government of Guyana will have to rely upon Caricom. We don't have much options here, and we will have to use whatever mechanism we have at our disposal to ensure that we engraft the support and secure the support of Caricom. So it's a question of application, and it's a question of continue to place our trust in Caricom, our closest ally on the matter. And the best position comes out of it. We have had long trade relations with Venezuela. In fact, as I speak, I believe not at a national level, but in terms of border relations, I believe many of our rice millers and businessmen are supplying rice to Venezuela currently. And there is still trade of petroleum across the border, etc. But that's not at a national level. So business relations, I suppose, will continue, and we'll have to interact at different levels.
And therefore, finally, in the 60 seconds that we have left, given the context that you just put to it about the good relations generally, business-wise and otherwise, with Venezuela, do you see this as just, as for want of a better phrase, saber-rattling by the Maduro regime to look good to their constituents at home?
I would tend to believe that, because this matter has been in the remit, unfortunately, of various extremist groups in Venezuela for decades. And whenever there is a breakdown of law and order in that country and the extremists take an upper hand, the issue assumes some degree of prominence. President Chavez came to Guyana and assured Guyanese that they have nothing to worry about in relation to that issue. President Maduro himself came to Guyana. I was Attorney General again. I sat with him, we sat together, we had meals, we had discussions, and this matter was raised, and we were given the assurance that we shouldn't worry about it. The very same Mr. Maduro. But obviously, things have deteriorated, and you have the extremist views seem to be prevailing. So yes, I agree that it is somewhere in the deep recesses of extremism that this view is getting its sustenance from. And every time you find legitimacy on the decline in that country, you find this issue resurrecting itself with some degree of prominence.
Attorney General Nandlall, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, sir, and we look forward to see how the situation unfolds and hopefully develops to the benefit of the people of Guyana. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Attorney General of Guyana and Minister of Legal Affairs, Mohammed Anil Nandlall. Before we go to another break, we have another submission. We've closed off the voting, of course, but here's a very impressive rainbow for you in the lush green hills in the foreground and some mist in the background as well. Now for a submission by Beverly in Philippines in South Trinidad. What creature is that? Is that a manikou? Maybe a manikou up in the tree. Is that a zabuka tree or a mango tree? It has looks like a manikou. We'll be right back. We'll take another look at some other issues when we come back.